and then the hooks are taken out of their body, and then there's no wound anymore. In the modern day, we've got the psychic surgeons in the Philippines who can reach inside someone's body, take out a tumor, remove it again, and then the body just heals over. That's it, and then he's got the tumor in a jar, No anesthetic, no nothing. He just reaches in, pulls it out. These are the Filipino psychic surgeons. Lyle Watson, in his book Supernature and Lifetide, talks about this quite a lot. There are a whole bunch of them in the Philippines. There are about, last I heard, there were about 20 of them. There's a guy in Brazil whose name I believe translates as John of God. He handles something like up to 3,000 patients a day. They come in a long line, about 10 seconds each. Sometimes, and he says, okay, you need this, you need this, you need this, you need this. And sometimes he picks up a rusty razor blade, opens them up with this rusty razor blade, no anesthetic, no nothing. He just says, right, okay, pulls something out and that's it. Okay, right, next. And then there's no wound, there's no nothing. And they're fine,
That's incredible.
And his name is John of God. I'd love to go and see him. I mean, he's on the internet, you can check him out, you can go on tours, you can go and see him, and then you can be one of those 3,000 people. And if you get the rusty razor blade treatment, make sure you got your camera. So all of that is testimony to the fact that as Michael Talbot would put it, we are living in a holographic universe.
Yeah.
And we got into talking about this because I was talking about my friend who told me about the party that he went to with these strange Illuminati characters where he put his hands to the wall. And before that, we were talking about this being that was in my room who materialized. And before that, we were talking about seeking help from our etheric friends who are also in this non-physical world. But all of this, if you see it all as a Star Trek holodeck, where you've got all of these different things, and whatever you see depends on what as David Icke would say it again, what radio station you're tuning into. All of these are metaphors. You have to kind of grok this, these concepts. You realize that there's so much room for anything to happen in life that you want to. Miracles become possible. There is no such thing as coincidence. One can plan one's own life. You can meet who you need to meet. And if you want to apply this on a physical level, you can step in a jump room and you can end up on Mars because it's just another application of practical magic. There's nothing really going on anyway. It's just a dream. Why don't you make a lucid dream and then you can do anything you want to? Some people do that. The Tibetan mystics, and I spent hundreds of years hanging out with them, and I used to be one, I think, at some point, had these sorts of abilities. They can do all kinds of stuff over there. It's never really been exported into the Western world. In the West, we're very technologically dependent. We exist in a very, very controlled way. We're lied to ever since we're lied to, controlled, manipulated from the moment that we're born. And we think that we're the most advanced race on Earth. And actually, we're really the most primitive. And this is where I have my difference. And this is a leap here. I love the way that Richard Dolan, in his presentation at the Los Angeles Camelot conference and in other presentations he's made, he argues the point very, very cogently that just because a civilization is technologically advanced, it doesn't mean that it knows what's going on. It doesn't mean it's spiritually advanced. It doesn't mean that it's going to have grown beyond the point of being benevolent. And he uses this wonderful example that just supposing we now had a time machine and we could go back just 1,000 years and talk to some of the people in the year 1000 AD. And you could bring your camera with you, you could bring your laptop with you, you could maybe bring your car with you, you could bring your cell phone with you. And they would see all of this incredible technology that to them would be like magic. And they would say, you are such advanced beings. You must have solved every problem in wherever it is that you come from. You must all be benevolent. You must all be like angels. You must have handled the problems of war, poverty, and disease. Because look at this technology that you've got. The logic doesn't work. The logic doesn't work. Just because you've got fancy toys that do things that you seem like magic, it doesn't mean that we're working at an advanced level of spiritual ability. It just means you've got fancy toys. And some of the ETs are like that. And that's what's wrong with this hypothesis that says that just because they're flying about there using things that don't seem to be rocket ships and seem to have access to other dimensions and they can do fancy stuff with all of their toys, it doesn't mean that they're advanced beings spiritually, doesn't mean that they're benevolent, doesn't mean that they're friendly, doesn't mean that they don't have their own problems. It just means that they're beings operating in this universe, playing games like we all are. They have their own karma, they have their own past, they have their own agendas, they have their own purposes. They may be doing things with us, to us, that we can't even imagine. And it's very, very dangerous to make the assumption that they're all wise and all benevolent. They may not be. I just wanted to slip that in because it's so important, given that we're talking about technology.
Absolutely. Well, Mook, on that vein, I want to get on to talking about sort of extraterrestrial beings either on and off Earth. What is actually going on? Who is running this planet, and when are they going to come out and let us know they're here?
There's a couple of simple questions for you.
Yeah.
I don't know. There seems to be a move towards something. Let's just build this up slowly. Larry King, on his show Larry King Live, has had more people on his interview show talking about UFOs and extraterrestrials this year than he has ever had before. Why? Interesting. Last year, the Vatican, the head Vatican astronomer, whose name I can't remember, made a public statement. This is my paraphrase, saying that if extraterrestrials exist, we must remember that they are all our brothers and sisters under God. It's like that came right out of the blue. Where did that come from, and why did he say that? Last week, approximately, if I remember rightly, the same guy held a 5-day conference. I believe it was in Australia. I may be wrong. I need to check all these details. All about the possibility of the reality of extraterrestrial life. Another interesting thing that's happened is that NASA have announced that there's water on the moon as a result of the L-Cross space probe crashing into the moon experiment that they did. Richard Hoagland, who we know, and he's an interesting guy with interesting theories. He's no fool. We like him. He's a smart guy. He makes a lot of interesting contributions to these debates. He predicted on Coast to Coast that the next step in this chess game was that they would announce that there was water on the moon. Because that's one of the things that it's like introducing these ideas. Like, oh, there's water on the moon. Okay, now most people realize that where there's water, there could be life. Next thing, they'll find something else, probably. So it's coming. I don't know how fast it's coming.